But the cap hit for Josh Allen currently in the NFL? How much of a cap hit is he in the NFL for the Bills?
So this is either super low or super high. I will guess blindly it's low.
He's 10th, which is he could be number one. He's the most talented player. He's 10th in cap hit. How about Patrick Mahomes?
He's always reworking his deal. I'll go 8th.
He's 14th.
Wow.
So it tells you they both have good rosters. So right now, Lamar Jackson is the 10th highest paid quarterback. So you could say to yourself, you're kind of getting jobbed. Now, his contract runs through 2027. So he deserves tweaking, and he should be paid one of the top 5. You're not always going to be perfect. Right now, the highest paid quarterbacks are Dak, Josh Allen, Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, Tua, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson. It should be noted, Dak's on a bad roster. Burrow's roster is okay. Trevor Lawrence roster, okay. Jordan Love roster lacks stars. Tua roster, Purdy's roster's overstated. Justin Herbert, we'll see. So about half the time when you pay the quarterback big money, it hurts your overall roster. I think Lamar Jackson's smart enough to figure that out. Drew Brees had a couple of lean years in New Orleans. It was when he was getting paid the most. And then Sean Payton and the guys went to him and said, if you want better players, you got to take less money. So it should be noted that Josh Allen, on his 6-year deal, he took a $90 million discount. So on his $330 million extension. I know, that you're just like, wow, how could you do that? It'd be hard. I'm not denying that. But Josh Allen wants to be an all-time great, not the all-time richest guy. Kirk Cousins got a lot of money. And when we think of Kirk Cousins, we think he has a lot of money. I think when you're as good as Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Brady or Breeze, I think basically things supersede money. I mean, Tom Brady signed a massive contract with Fox. He doesn't do that with 1 or 2 Super Bowl rings. He does it with 7. So, I mean, it's just Michael Jordan has never been a broadcaster before. He just signed a massive contract. Was it NBC? It's because he's got 6 rings. So for Lamar, he got to get that ring because I think he is an all-time talent. He's the most athletic quarterback, including Michael Vick, I've ever seen, including Steve Young, Brett Favre. I think he's it. So he was asked about his current contract situation and where he's at with it.
How would you describe whatever conversations you've had with Eric to this point? And are you feeling any urgency to get something done?
I never discuss contract situations here. But yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Is that okay with you?
Well, that said, though, that once it gets done, you're going to be the highest paid player in the NFL. I mean, that must sound pretty good to you, right?
Jameson. Sound good.
Yeah, he don't want to talk about it. And I think it's very simple to figure out. Like, you want a better roster, you want better supporting cast, you got to take a little less money. Now, the good news is, and I've always said this with the NBA, if you're a great player, you're making 8 figures in shoes. Some of these guys are making 6, 7 figures in social media stuff, production companies. So again, I understand players always taking the most they can take, but I think there is an exception. If you believe you're an all-time great talent, and I think Lamar's in that class. I've never seen an athlete like this at quarterback. Then money becomes secondary. You're going to make your money. You're an all-time great. Dan Marino didn't even have a Super Bowl. He made a lot of money. Broadcasting, merchandising, isotoner gloves, whatever. So my take is, if you're Kirk Cousins, take the money. If you're Josh Allen, take a little less and get rings. And I think Lamar's in that class. And that's my take on LeBron James. I mean, now LeBron may be saying, hey, I'm not taking anything less. But you got a production company, you got a massive podcast, real estate, you're $1 billion net worth, shoe deals. At some point, I always think this. When you get into these sports, it's a collective, right? When players retire, what is the thing they say they always miss? The locker room, the flight, the guys. Nobody ever says the check because they're all rich, especially nowadays. They miss the camaraderie. When we ask those players, what do you miss? It's usually the great players because the locker room and those flights home are always awesome when you win. They're not awesome. They're not awesome when you lose. How can I, as a star player, ensure we win more than we lose?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, but I will say he is right about the whole thing about the locker. I always think about what do I miss most about playing, and it is all those random moments, the locker room, the bench, just even being in line, talking. When I saw the one clip of like Shador Sanders like kind of goofing around in the line, like it brings it back. But I know this is going to trigger a lot of people. I just know it with how much money someone like Lamar should get paid, and I've seen this so much that the fans are always like, "Why should so and so take a discount? The owner needs to take a discount," and it's always like that's not how this works. Okay, if you pay Lamar Jackson less money, the owner doesn't get to now just keep all this money in his pocket. That's not how it works, and the reality is also how you structure a contract where you can get them a lot of money but still have a less cap hit, etc., etc. But I do agree with what Colin is saying about when you're chasing greatness and you're chasing rings, that taking the discount makes sense. And I said this to Eagles fans, I guess before Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl, where I was just like, Jalen Hurts will probably take a significantly less amount of money if he wins like one more Super Bowl. If he can win another Super Bowl, if he can win 2 Super Bowls, his next contract, he's going to be like, I want to keep winning Super Bowls. Like I want 4 or 5. Whereas like if you're up for a contract and you haven't won a Super Bowl and it doesn't feel like you can, you're kind of like, well, give me my money. But the reality is this too. The Ravens have built awesome rosters. The Ravens have a little bit of a Chiefs thing with Mahomes fans and Chiefs fans and Lamar fans and Ravens fans. When you have a quarterback as electric and as popular as someone like Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, you have two sets of fans. You really do. You have Ravens fans and you have Lamar fans. And of course there's plenty of overlap, but not always. Not always. It really is kind of like the Venn diagram type thing. And so you will have fans be like, the Ravens aren't doing a good enough job of surrounding Lamar with talent, blah, blah. And it's like, Lamar Jackson, without a shadow of a doubt, I just made a video discussing this a little bit. He has had so many Pro Bowlers and so many All-Pro players, whether it's offense or defense, and a lot of times it almost becomes irrelevant because the team itself is obviously a top team in the NFL. And I've criticized coaching, I've defended, like all this type of stuff, but it's like talent is not necessarily the problem here. You're not like, well, they're lacking talent, because that's not the problem. It's just not. I mean, last year alone, 11 Pro Bowlers, 6 All-Pro. I mean, what do you want? 15 Pro Bowlers? 10 All-Pros? And yeah, Zay wasn't in the playoffs. Why? Because you didn't play good enough during the regular season to lock it all up. That's a reality. So you had to play that final game and get injured. That's a Ravens problem. That's not a roster problem. And so it's like it's figuring that all out. And I loved how Lamar handled it. He was charming. He was funny. He, I always talk about this. He has such a deep level of innocence about him, which I really appreciate. I feel like even this looks misleading. Highest paid player sounds good, where it's kind of, and it's just like he didn't want to talk about it, he didn't want to do it, and they're like, well, how does that sound? And he's like, what is he gonna say? Sounds bad? I don't want that. Like, of course. And it will be interesting to see what type of contract he gets. I don't blame someone. The way how Lamar Jackson's career has unfolded as well, and his combined with his life, I don't blame someone like him for wanting to just be like, just give me all the money, give me all the money, give me all the money. I think it is different when you're like a Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Right? Tom Brady's dating celebrities and marrying celebrities. I mean, he's had children with 2 different celebrities, right? Like he's married. He was married to 2. It wasn't just that Giselle or whatever was making all this money. Like it was before that. It was another actress that he was dating. So he was already living a very Hollywood celebrity life. Patrick Mahomes very early in his career was already this massive epic celebrity making a gajillion dollars already. You know, like it's just kind of different. His background, his how he was born and raised, and his life experiences. So I don't blame someone like that. That's why I kind of called out Dak. For Dak, came out and was like, it's my job to make sure that I keep elevating the bar, how much these quarterbacks get paid. And I'm like, no, it's not. Your job is to win playoff games, to win games, to get to Super Bowls, to win Super Bowls. That is your job. Your job is to not keep elevating how much quarterbacks get paid. And like, you're already living like a pretty extraordinary celebrity commercialized life in Dallas, and you've already had massive contracts, massive money. It's like trying to squeeze even more out is like, I'm not so sure that's the way to go if you truly are. Because now he even came out and he's like, I got to win a Super Bowl. I don't care about legacy. I got to do it. And it's like, well, maybe be more strategic with your contract. And I'm not even saying that his contract was necessarily bad, but he clearly was trying to get the most out of everything. And you do have Josh Allen taking a legitimate and pretty big pay cut, but he's also, has lived for the most part, to my knowledge, has lived an awesome life, and now he's married to another celebrity. Like it is different when you're kind of in this bit of a bubble, like Colin's talking about Lamar Jackson, or some of these other players being commentators and signing deals with Fox. I don't get the sense that that's going to be Lamar Jackson's post career life. I don't see Lamar Jackson wearing a suit and tie, smiling, being like, "Okay, Chuck, wasn't that a great? This is gonna be a great game." Like I don't see that. I don't know if Lamar wants that. It doesn't seem like that's Lamar's energy, quite frankly. I could see Lamar doing something like an Eli Manning and Peyton Manning type, where they have like their simulcast type thing. But like, I don't know. I could see him kind of just chilling and talking and seeing what he would see and what he would do, kind of like what the Manning brothers do. But like, that's not my thing either. It's like, I'm not really interested in that, either necessarily. And so, and a lot of times my favorite commentators are like, kind of like the old men who have seen a lot, like that's why I love like the Troy Aikmans of the world, because it's just, they've done it for so long. Like, I'm not like, oh, right, Tom Brady, let's go. I think Tom Brady's perspective is interesting. And I think especially when you've actually won Super Bowls and won rings, or you played against other all-time greats, is interesting. But like, even like Lamar Jackson, like you got to see him win. Like if he's going to be commentating, like seeing him win rings so we could talk about, my first 5 years, we weren't able to get over the hump. And what really changed was X, Y, and Z. Or then he can speak to, man, I remember my first few times in the playoffs when I played against a great player like a Patrick Mahomes, like X, Y, and Z. And then that translates to, 10, 15 years from now when he's talking about a new batch of greats. And that's how you kind of connect it all together. It can't be just, individualized achievements necessarily. So I don't know. It all depends on what Lamar, wants out of life and what he's looking to achieve. But I agree. And I said this before. It's just like, the reality is like someone like Lamar Jackson, it's just like, if Lamar Jackson wins, what's at stake for Lamar? Essentially everything. If he wins a couple Super Bowls, it's just like, what's at stake for him? Like, he's in the GOAT conversation. If he gets just 3 Super Bowls, people will say, is this not the greatest, most talented quarterback we've ever had? And people say, yeah, but like Tom Brady won this and Patrick Mahomes ended up retiring with 5. And it's just like, doesn't matter. Look at what Lamar has done. Like he will clearly be in that conversation. I'm not saying he'll be able to plant his flag and be like, I am the GOAT. No one can debate me. But like, he will legitimately, truly be in that conversation, and he will leapfrog the Mannings and any of these other miscellaneous guys that we don't talk talk about as much anymore. But like, I just don't know if you're looking at the money situation as like, well, Lamar, he will be on Fox, at 1:00 doing Sunday games. Like, I don't see that for Lamar personally. I don't get that feeling from him. I see Micah wanting to do that. It's honestly, to be fair though, it's like, I didn't see Tom Brady doing that. I was like, Tom Brady's going to be like wearing a suit and like talking about games at like, he's going to be like doing like a 49ers versus Jacksonville Jaguars game at like 4:00. I'm like, I guess like, I didn't see it. Like, that's why right now it's hard for me to see Mahomes doing it. I can't see Josh Allen doing it either. Like, to be fair, I don't really see a lot of these guys do it. I don't see Jalen Hurts doing it. Jalen Hurts does not have a lot to say. They're like, oh, Jalen, what do you think? And I'll be like, I think that was a good play. Anything else you have to add to that? Nope. It's like, oh, all right, cool. So it's just like, you know, I don't know. It's yeah, I'll just keep saying that. I don't know. I could see Dak Prescott doing it, you know, having the post career in that regard, but who knows? But I just don't want to give the illusion off of like, oh, you know, if Lamar Jackson gets paid a lot of money, they're going to struggle to put great rosters around him, because he's had great rosters. And so it's like that hasn't been the fundamental problem. This wasn't a situation where Lamar is about to potentially get a ton of money and they haven't been able to, you know, they've built some good rosters, but they haven't been able to afford to keep people. And now the situation is that when he finally gets, you know, paid a lot, now the roster is clearly going to go backwards a little bit. Like, that's not necessarily the situation that Lamar Jackson is in right now. But yeah, that's why I think it kind of hurts. And I think I might have said this about Lamar too last year. I don't remember. I know I said it about Jalen, but I did say, you know, but it is the idea of like, if Lamar Jackson won a Super Bowl last year, like, you know, before we obviously knew how this was all going to unfold, you know, again, I will remain the take of like, you're likely to get a better deal, because it's like, let's keep winning. Let's keep doing that. And if you don't, especially if you lose in the divisional round, you're like, now you feel even further from winning a Super Bowl. You're kind of like, well, I don't know. I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to do it, but like, hasn't happened yet. I still want my money. Like, you know, it's sure when I retire, I'm like, I'm going to say I miss the camaraderie. I miss the locker room and stuff. But like, you know, it's still pretty sweet to also get paid $60 million a year, you know, however they actually officially get paid on a weekly bit, you know, on a monthly, or however the checks are officially cut. Like, still pretty cool to see my bank account like skyrocket every 2 weeks, every month, whatever it is. Like, it's a pretty cool feeling knowing. And, you know, it's like, there's a reason why billionaires, I mean, you got people who are like worth 60, 70, 80, 100 billion dollars, and they're still getting after it, man. They still want it to keep on coming. So, yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see what he does. Honestly, I will be, I will be keeping my eyes out for that. But I don't know if it's actually going to happen anytime soon, or like how the process will like truly unfold. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Lamar Jackson? You know, how much, it's not a matter of how much is he worth to the Ravens, because the question is, he's obviously worth an insane amount to the Ravens, but it's just, the better question is like, how much should Lamar take? How should Lamar navigate this? Should he be pushing for like a $65 million contract, 70 million or something like that? Or should he just, you know, take a Josh Allen approach, Patrick Mahomes approach, a Tom Brady approach? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.